I've been working on a video about CubeSats, and this CubeSat is called the Build a CubeSat, and it has a Compute Module 5 at its heart, a couple cameras, a power management module, all kinds of cool stuff. It has tons of antennas on it. I think this one has 4 total. And because of that, working with CubeSats means you need to know a lot about SDR, or software-defined radio. And I've been asking a bunch of people about it. I've been experimenting with it on Raspberry Pi. We have a video on it on Geerling Engineering. But somebody who I've been talking with a lot about this stuff is Gabe from Save It for Parts. And I've followed his channel for a long time. I actually met him at OpenSauce last year. And so this is an interesting time for me to have seen this in one of his videos.
This is the computer I use to edit all my videos. It is a second-hand mashup of 2 different computers that friends gave me, stuffed full of RAM, 90% of which work. It gives me a RAM error every time I boot up, and then it gives me a drive error. It takes me about 4 tries to boot this thing, so this is definitely a Save It for Parts editing system.
And Gabe may have some older parts and save them a little too much. I have a lot of new things that I save a little too much. And one of those things is this Minisforum MS-A1 workstation. So instead of having this sit on my workbench for a long time and not ever be used, I figured why not build this out into a little mini editing rig that I can ship off to him. And that way Save It for Parts can have a little bit faster, better, easier editing. I have the bare bones kit. I was going to build it out. I was going to maybe get a sponsor or something to pay for some parts, but you know what? I'll just build it out with stuff that I have laying around. I have an NVMe drive for booting. I have a stick of RAM that I bought for some other project, and that didn't fit because I needed DDR4 and this is DDR5. So I need to get a little bit more of that. There's only 16 gigs. I'm going to try to get 32. And I actually talked to Kioxia about this, and they said, yeah, we'll send over a couple drives. This won't fit in here. One of them might. I hope it will. I don't know if the bare bones kit comes with the little U.2 adapter thingy. Anyway, I have this thing. I need a CPU and I need more RAM. So I'm going to run over to Micro Center, and this is not sponsored by Micro Center. I'm just going to run there and buy a couple of these things, try to put this together and get it shipped to him before OpenSauce. Because why not? I have plenty of other things to procrastinate on right now. Why not also procrastinate by building this system and probably having problems with it, spending extra time? Anyway, on to Micro Center. Sorry for the jiggle cam over here, but if you're ever coming to the St. Louis Micro Center, don't enter in the front entrance of the shopping center that it's at. I'm coming right now through this industrial area behind it. And if you do that, you just pull right in and you turn into the parking lot and you park and you're done. The parking lot's still terrible no matter how you approach it, but at least you get to avoid the hellish landscape of all the stores to get through to get to the Micro Center. For some reason, it's in the back of the shopping center. I don't know why. All right, we had a successful trip. I got the 8700G because, not because of the price, it's actually on sale right now, but because it is pretty much like the best balance of performance, iGPU, and all that stuff that's available at Micro Center right now in the AM5 socket. And then I got this extra stick of RAM. Anyway, let's take these back to the studio and we'll get things put together. All right, we're level 2 Jeff. The HVAC is running, but that's okay. It looks like I got the right one, 4800 megahertz, 16 gigabytes times 2, so I got 32 gigs of RAM. Got the NVMe drive. Got these guys, which I think one might fit, we'll see. And let's start putting this together. I think we should start by getting this guy cracked open. We can see what we're dealing with. Now this is the MS-A1, which I thought had a little U.2 to M.2 adapter, but I might be wrong on that. I asked on Discord, I asked a couple other home lab creators about that, and we might not be able to fit these drives in here, because this one is like a cut down budget version of the MS-A1. From what I hear, I don't know, we'll find out. But this is it. This is a tiny computer. That was the whole reason, like, this fits in a mini rack. I think it even fits in 1U. I just checked, it doesn't fit in 1U. It would be just a hair taller, but if you have a device that's shorter, you could just put that on top, and so you could have 2U with 2 devices. But this is the whole thing. This looks like a chip puller, but I was looking at a couple of YouTube videos for teardown, and this is used to pull the interior out. Ooh, and look at this beefy power supply. That is a big one. I think
I kind of prefer Apple's approach where you have the power supply built into the computer, but at least they include the power supply and you don't have to supply it on your own. What is this? 19 volts, 240 watts. That's a lot of power. It comes with an HDMI cable, power cable. These are some heat sinks for M.2. Okay, so I think all we need to do is unscrew all these 8 screws on the bottom, and then the bottom tray will come out. Okay, and then this comes out. Okay, so now we got to pull this out. There we go. So that is just the case, and there's did this come off? No. There's a filter, like a fan filter here, but it doesn't seem like that comes off. So you'll just have to, if you want to clean that, you got to blow it out from the inside. Yeah, I don't see any way for that to come off. It's like glued down. And on the front, there's just this power button, which is on a little plastic welded spring in the middle. We got the bottom side. Looks like maybe a chipset cooler or something down here. Then there's an M.2 slot right here. There's an M.2 slot right here. I might need to look up online in the instructions which one to use for the boot drive, because I'm sure not all of them are the same capability. Oh, so here's a switch, U.2 on and M.2 on. This doesn't come with the adapter, so I won't be able to fit this U.2 drive in here, which kind of stinks. What I might do is I might send this along with the unit, and then if Gabe can find an M.2 to U.2 adapter, he could put it in. Otherwise, maybe he could find a different way to get this plugged in, because these drives are extremely fast and very, very durable. So, you know, they're great for video editing, they're great for NAS use. Anyway, I'll send one along with this. I don't think I'll be able to install that in here, but let's get everything else in before I look up where to put this NVMe drive. This is a 2 terabyte Kioxia XG8. So it'll still give them a lot of room for boot storage, apps, and even a terabyte or so for working projects, and then you could move those off to another hard drive afterwards. But let's get this cracked open. So hopefully this is DDR5 slots. I didn't even check that in the specs, but I think it is. I'll move the camera so you can see better. Okay. So 1 stick of RAM. That's mildly concerning. Oh, the label on here is a little bit askew. So I thought that I installed the RAM wrong, but the pins are all good. It's just the label was not stuck on straight. So that's a little annoying because it looks like the one is cockeyed, but it's not. Okay, let's get the CPU out. Oh, and this comes with a cooler. How fancy is that? I don't need the cooler, but it comes with one. It's a big box for a little CPU. I do like how they went to the CPU style without the pins on the CPU side, and it has a socket with them. Of course, that means that the socket is more fragile because of all the little pins on it, but the CPU, you won't have a pin go missing or bend a bunch of pins when you're trying to install it wrong. So that's nice. But let's get you into here. Okay, the pins are looking good. Drop you right down on top. And okay, I'm gonna have to pick one of these slots. There's no markings on the board for which one is which. I guess I will look it up online. I don't know which architecture we got here, but it looks like our best bet is slot number 4. And just showing you what that is, there's this little grid here that says that some of the slots have PCIe Gen 4x4, which will give us the most speed out of a Gen 4x4 drive like this, versus PCIe Gen 3x4, which is probably through the chipset on the other side. So those look like these 2 slots. And I'll just do slot 4, which is this one here. And it has a Wi-Fi chip. It looks like it's an Intel AX210, so Wi-Fi 6E compatible. So that's nice. I didn't know it came with Wi-Fi built in, but that's useful in case Gabe has just Wi-Fi to this device. It'll be fast. Look at this. Well, maybe we won't be using that slot. No, I guess there's just enough clearance. You got to kind of bend it sideways. That's a little bit of a design oversight, it looks like. And then here, I'm pushing down on these cables. I think no matter where I go, it looks like I'm going to be pushing down against the cable in a funny way. So I guess I'll just go here and we'll smash those antenna cables a tiny bit. When space is at a premium though, I guess that makes sense. Oh, you know what? We should probably put a heatsink on here just to keep it a little cooler. I'm trying to also make sure that in shipping none of this stuff gets damaged, so definitely use these little rubber bands to hold the heat sinks in place. Otherwise the heat sinks could just go flying off and then pop around in the case, and then when Gabe turns it on it just explodes. That would be terrible. Okay, we got CPU, RAM, and storage. Now let's see what's next here. We need to get cooling for the CPU. And this, earlier I opened this up and I touched this little thermal pad and I realized there's no cover on that, so don't touch that if you want it to look nice before you install. These little guys over here have covers, see that? So we'll take those off. These are probably for the VRMs. Okay, that's some gooey material. This is a little finicky, having to screw through the bottom here while you're trying to keep this attached, like that. Okay. Those screws don't quite feel right, but I don't see any other screws in here that those could be. I don't know, that was a little weird. It just didn't feel quite right. But now let's get these guys in. Okay, fans in. The question is, what does this do? Doesn't seem like this is going to make much contact with the RAM, but that's what this looks like it's for. So I'm going to go ahead and install it. I'm going to cut off part of this so that the screw can go in here. This side has all these mounting points. I think that's for the U.2 drive, which we are not going to fit in there. And I just noticed too, so these CD8s are 15 millimeters tall. You can see on the side there, 15 millimeters. And it looks like this case only would take up to 9 millimeters. So you can see that's a bit too tall. That's a bit too tall to fit in there, but it would fit like in this area, I think. This case doesn't look like it would fit. It has the U.2 and M.2 slot changer thing, but there's nowhere where a 2.5-inch drive would fit on here. So I don't know, maybe don't get the MS-A1 if you want to use a U.2 drive at all. My research into this model was definitely a little bit flawed because I thought that this one would work with U.2 drives, and it definitely doesn't work with 15 millimeter, and I don't see a way it would work with a 9 millimeter either. All right, well, we're not going to spend too much time dwelling on that because this needs to get done so I can stop procrastinating on my open source project. Get you back in there. Well, there it is. Let's go see if we can boot this thing up. Okay, you can see I have a few too many projects going on right now. That's the normal state of affairs here. But let's get you plugged in over here at the workbench. It is nice it has DisplayPort and HDMI on the back, so you can use whatever one of those you want. And the cool thing about this system is it has an OcuLink port, so you could put a GPU dock on it if you want to run an external GPU and get some more power. Okay, and then I got Windows 11 on here. And if he wants to install Linux, it's easy enough to do that. So I'll just put Windows on here for now. And it's doing stuff. Fans are all going. Let's see if we get to the BIOS screen. The first boot is always a little bit nerve-wracking because you don't know if it's getting through all the memory. Don't know if your CPU is good. All that stuff. Oh, here we go. Blue. Blue is good. I think it wants, nope, maybe not. I don't know, it's an HDMI. There we go, Minisforum. Okay, I think we already passed the BIOS. But that's okay, we'll set it up. There we go. Okay, it's installing. Every time I install Windows, it does this, like it reboots like 3 or 4 times. Why can't you just install Windows and then it's installed? Like, why does it, what is the reboots for? I just don't understand. Here goes one of those reboots. Okay, finally, after a bunch of reboots. I don't want to do that. How do you... Come on. Oh, Microsoft. I have to look up how to skip this again. OOBE/bypass NRO. And I just showed people are like, oh, Mac does the same thing. No, they don't. If you don't have internet, it doesn't force you to go into a terminal command line and do that. So, oh, Microsoft. And apparently they're going to change that method soon at some point and make it even harder. Or there's always going to be a way around it. So I don't know why Microsoft keeps doing these dumb things. So anytime I set up a new computer, I run Cinebench on it. I check all the stats in Task Manager, which that looks good. It's going crazy because of Cinebench starting up right now. And on Windows, CPU-Z gives a lot of information about the motherboard, the memory. See, here's the motherboard stuff, memory, memory timings, the graphics card, making sure that it's recognized. You can run a little quick benchmark on here just to make sure that things are good and that your thermal paste is applied correctly. And over here in Task Manager, you can get a lot of that information as well. So we can make sure that our memory is at 4,800 megatransfers per second and make sure our disk is recognized correctly and all these things are working. So anyway, I'm going to fire off Cinebench on multi-core. So multi-core hammers all cores simultaneously for a long time and should kick the system off and basically see how fast it can go. And also make sure that our thermal paste is applied correctly, because if it's not, the fans will ramp up and it'll have terrible performance, and we can compare it against other systems with the same CPU just to make sure that we didn't set something up wrong. So I'm going to fire that off and get back to you when it's done. There it goes. It's definitely not the quietest solution around, and that's because you're putting a desktop processor into a little mini PC. It's a little bigger than a Mac Mini, but it's not that much bigger. But here, I'll go up close and you can hear the sound it's making. And those two fans draw air in on the top and blow it out the back, so you probably don't want to like put a monitor, well, I don't have the monitor stand for this one. You don't want to put a big monitor stand right on top of here. That would be a terrible idea. So this one you'd like want to set up sideways or set it on your desktop with nothing on top. Don't put a book on top of it. If you wonder why your fans go insane, it would be because you just blocked all of the air intakes. I can feel the air rushing over my hand. Let's let that go and see how it performs. So Cinebench is complete. It looks like 802 for multi-core and 107 for single core, which is not too far out of spec. Looking online at like XDA did some tests in here and got 107, which is pretty close to 111 for the single core. But 979 is substantially improved for multi-core, which makes me wonder, here's another one, that maybe the heatsink is not making 100% contact. I can launch a temperature monitoring app and see how things go while I'm running Cinebench. So I'm going to do that really quick just to make sure it's not like throttling like crazy. But I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely a good score. It's just not as good as I think it could be. Because I don't want to send this off with some setting missing that's going to help the performance on it quite a bit. So using hardware monitor, I can make sure that the voltages and the power consumption and temperatures and all that kind of stuff are correct while I'm running something like Cinebench. So I'm going to go ahead and start another run on this. You can check on here to make sure that the temperatures are not going crazy. So 77, if it gets up into the high 80s, I think that could be a little concerning. But it is doing 65 watt. I'm guessing there's some more overhead. We could probably go beyond 65 watts on here if we change that in the BIOS. But it looks like it's limiting everything to 65 watt TDP, which honestly isn't bad. Like I said, the sound on here is not incredible. It's not the quietest thing in the world, but it's not that loud. And if we tried overclocking things or pushing the power limits a little higher, we probably wouldn't have quite as much sanity in terms of the fans not going crazy. So
So the second run I got 956, I canceled it after it finished most of the rendering, but I think maybe on first run it was still doing some Windows updates because Windows loves to just do updates all day long whenever you set up a new computer. So anyway, it's all going good. I slapped on a Gearling Engineering sticker. I'm gonna get this boxed up and we'll get it off in the mail. I think that Gabe is on a vacation this week, so hopefully when he comes back, this will be greeting him. And of course, I said update and shut down, and what does it do? It reboots. I don't understand. Okay, I got a little note on there. I'm gonna put this box together and ship this off. Hopefully it arrives intact. We'll see. But if it doesn't, then that will really stink, but at least he'll have some components that he can save for parts later. Anyway, Gabe, I hope that you enjoy this thing. I'm gonna stick it in the mail. And let me know when it comes, and hopefully it will help you with your video editing needs. And then eventually, someday, when it is superseded by something else, it can be yet another part on your shelf.